Joining me now is House Oversight Committee member, Tennessee Congressman Mark Green. Congressman, thanks for coming in. You're among those calling on Schiff to resign from his position. He's chairman of the Intel Committee. Why should he resign?
Thanks, David, for having me on the show. I think he should resign because basically he has said he physically saw evidence that was convincing that the President of the United States had committed a crime. And now we find out that there was never any evidence that showed collusion of any kind. Mr. Schiff's standards of evidence are very clearly inappropriate, wrong. He should not be chairing the House Intel Committee. It makes no sense to have someone who can say that they saw evidence when there was never any evidence. I just think it's wrong. I mean, he's a conspiracy theorist, basically, is what he is, and he should not be leading the House Intel Committee.
You know, I went back and looked at quotes from him in which he did say specifically that he has seen credible evidence that there was collusion. Was he just making it up? I mean, is there somewhere that some access to some document that he might have that Mr. Mueller never saw?
I can't imagine. I mean, it's very clear with their threat to continue investigations that their real goal is to take the president down. And I genuinely believe when they took over in the House this year, they were teeing up all these investigations, even in oversight with Michael Cohen coming in. The goal is to take the president down. If he had evidence, there is no way in the world he would keep that from Bob Mueller. There is no way.
Well, despite your calls for him to resign, I think it's probably more likely he would become a Republican than resign. Don't you?
That's a good one. I'm going to remember that line if I can use that. I will.
Well, but, yeah, I mean, you don't really think there's any possibility he would resign?
Well, clearly he's not going to resign, but you know, the speaker could ask him or even put pressure on him. She could actually pull him from his speakership or his chairmanship of the committee. So she could do that for the integrity of the committee and for the integrity of the House, and I think she should do that.
You know, it was about a year ago, it was in April 2018, when the House Intel Committee, of course, then run by Republicans, came out with a report that said pretty much what the Mueller report said, that there was no collusion. There were some hits on the president. It suggested that perhaps he was indiscreet in some of the things he said, but in terms of collusion, there was none, no evidence. It pretty much paralleled what Mr. Mueller said, even though Democrats were furious at the House report. They haven't had the guts to come out and say they're furious with the Mueller report after having supported Mr. Mueller for so long.
That's right. They talked about how impartial he was going to be and how great of a prosecutor, investigator he was going to be. So their credibility will only be worsened if they come out and criticize him. But the Senate, you know, the Senate came out with a version just a few months ago as well and basically said the same thing. There is no evidence of collusion here. And yet Mr. Schiff wants to keep on investigating, wasting the time. You know, and it's an opportunity cost. Whenever a committee goes and looks at one thing, they can't be looking at something else. And we have some serious problems in the country. Active duty suicides in the Army increased this last year. Why are we not looking into that?
Yeah.
No, we're not, because all they want to do is ding President Trump.
You know, it's not only a waste of time, it's a waste of something that you know well inside the Beltway. It's a waste of political capital. And I'm just wondering, you work with these people every day. I'm sure you're, you know, off camera, you're friendly with some of them. Don't you ever suggest, look, you guys can't be serious. This is not going to be a winning issue. I mean, do they really plan on carrying it through, even though Mr. Mueller said there's nothing there?
It seems to be that they want to continue these investigations. Clearly, House Intel wants to. Now, whether or not oversight will continue down this path, we'll have to wait and see. But very clearly, Mr. Schiff had said he wants to go forward with more investigation. He's doubling down, and it just continues to destroy his credibility. And I think that's why Leader McCarthy, you know, kicked this off, and now the rest of us are sort of joining in the chorus. He needs to step down.
Well, it may also be destroying their chances for a win in 2020. So, you know, I mean, I assume they think they know what they're doing, but we'll leave them to their own devices. Congressman Mark Green, great to see you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you
David.
for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show.